Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Green Nurse Podcast, where we bring hope and inspiration for growth and healing. And we often talk about things that people don't like to talk about because they are important subjects to be discussed to decrease stigma for healing. So, no one likes to talk about death and dying, especially with all the deaths that we're seeing surrounding COVID-19. So literally, death and dying need not be a horrible experience. And oftentimes it's just that for both patients and families and even providers that are taking care of patients. So I've done hospice nursing for 3 years. And honestly, it was one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had to help a patient peacefully transition over from the physical world to the spiritual world. And it was actually equally as rewarding to help families process emotion around death, dying, and the grief that can be so overwhelming for so many people. So I'm just going to take a poll. Everyone raise their hand out there. How many people have thought about their own deaths and what it would be, what it would like, and what you would like to happen to your body? So how many people have really thought about it? So I've actually looked death in the eye a few times. And I'm truly grateful that I've been able to process that experience. And Mom, I just want to say thank you for getting me a spot next to you so we can hang out together. Our ashes can hang out together. So anyways, I want to introduce my guest tonight. I'd like to welcome my Canna soul sister, Jamie Rollins Worster, to the platform, who was on in September sharing her story of becoming a cannabis nurse. And she shared how cannabis and other plant entheogens have helped patients at the end of life. Jamie is a registered nurse, a cannabis nurse, a certified yoga instructor. She's a member of the American Cannabis Nurses Association, the Cannabis Nurses Network, and the International Association of Psychedelic Nurses. Jamie's background is in community health, hospice care, and psychiatric nursing. She is the founder of True Health Consulting, which provides quality consulting on cannabis as medicine and offers multiple other services for patients and health professionals. Jamie is also a green nurse working with us to build the platform with her expertise for our expansion across the country. So today we're going to discuss about how to have a loving discussion about death and dying and advance directives. So Jamie, welcome back.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me. One of my favorite topics to talk about.
Well, you know, it's good because you've done hospice nursing a lot more than I have, but I've also done it, and it's truly a discussion that people don't like to have. But you know, you've come on before and we've shared our experiences. Is that the sooner we have these discussions with people, even going on to hospice care, the longer we've seen patients live.
Well, and a lot of times these discussions, I worked home health for a very long time, and the goal of home health is to get patients back into the community and independent, different from hospice, which is to provide quality of life. So, you know, the time to be bringing up the discussion of what you want to be doing is when you're meeting those patients in that home health setting, when you are getting the goals to get them back into the community, because that's when you have that touch point. Maybe they're dealing with a chronic illness. It's something that triggers them to think about what's going to happen when that chronic illness then progresses. And there's going to be a lot of other things in place that will happen. So if they have this out of the way, it can make things a lot easier down the road.
So how do you recommend having a conversation with a loved one, you know, about death and dying before they get sick? So how would people do that? Because, you know, around the holidays, you know, people are Zooming, some people are getting together. And, you know, with this time of COVID, you know, with cases popping up left and right, people dying, 90,000 people died the other day.
I know.
In the world, in the whole 90,000.
So we need to be, I mean, it just is more of an understanding as to why so many people because so many families now are dealing with figuring out what to do now after someone has passed away. And the statistics, I'm sure, will probably show that most of those people weren't expecting to need services like that in place. So yeah, it is something that we need to be discussing, and we need to be talking about more. And you know, it's tough because of COVID, but I told people all the time, I tell people to keep it light. It's literally like getting a health insurance plan. When you're talking about keep it light, I mean, take some of the emotion out of it. and just, it is what it is. It's something that as responsible adults, and, we need to take care of planning the end of life, because somebody has to do it. So if we aren't the ones to do it for ourselves, we leave that burden and that task on usually the ones we love, who are left behind,
Right.
who are already dealing with a ton of grief. So,
Right.
I keep it light, as you're talking about whatever. I mean, our family's a jokester. A lot of families are different in the way they approach things. So if your family's more of a numbers people, bring some statistics. If your family's more of a money saving people, talk about the reason why you would want to plan early. It's going to save you money in the long run.
Right.
So you really got to find, when you want to bring this up with family, we all learn differently and we all receive information differently. So if we can kind of find how that other person receives information and cater to that, so that we can be a little more gentle. You and I, nurses, we call it like it is. So
I know, we're like, we bottom line it. But
yeah,
then
like,
again,
Mom, Dad, we're getting these for you in place because, I put money aside. No, we're getting these in place because that money you put aside is not going to really cover it in 30 years when you need it,
Right. So yeah, so it's, and this is how the other thing that I look at. So just think about, we enter into this world and we exit this world. So just think about when we enter into this world, what a celebration it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what do we plan? We buy things, we pick out names,
registry.
Yeah.
Yep.
So why not? This is how I look at it. 420funerals.com. Like seriously, why not think about having, planning something? And this is like what we're going to talk about. So I want to talk
all sorts of wild things now. I mean, people are not just ending up in a casket in the ground. People are being, Florida here, there's a reef. You can have your ashes scattered. You can be put in a pod and buried under a tree and become one with the forest. I mean, there are so many unique options that people are really thinking about for like environmental reasons too. Like the funeral industry, and when we do things like with the casket in a body, that embalming fluid is super toxic. Then you're being put into the ground. So people are even taking that into consideration in their death. How are they leaving? What kind of footprint are they leaving, even in death? And I love that. I love that people are going that far to think about it. And they're not afraid to talk about it. It's just the final piece. And how do you want that? How do you want your exit to be? Right.
Right. How do you want to, exit out of this world? So let's just talk about a couple of scenarios of what it's looked like for patients that have not had plans and those that have had plans in place. So let's talk about those patients that you've worked with that have not had a death plan in place, an end of life and advanced directives. What kind of situations have you seen?
Just a lot of chaos. A lot of times younger families who weren't expecting to be dealing with, and younger, I'm talking in your late 30s, 40s, maybe something like cancer or car accident or a stroke or whatever tragedy, head injury, you just weren't planning for it. And, to have those young families witnessing that and having to deal with the intense, heavy grief of losing somebody, like the father or husband, and then to have to go to that next step of then figuring out financially how you're going to pay for it, and then what you're going to, when that's going to happen, and now with COVID, those decisions and those choices tend to be a little bit more challenging. So a lot of chaos. And even when they're older folks and they kind of know what's coming, and if things aren't planned, you have families. And we know the family dynamics when it comes to hospice. A lot of the hospice care really, as for nurses, really like embraces the family and helping the family to grieve appropriately or as healthy as possible, and to facilitate those discussions. So I have helped. I have been that person that multiple times when they're like, what do we do now? Well, the family is responsible when it comes down to it, and hospice for making the arrangements for the funeral. Or the end of life cremation, whatever it is that, you choose. It's the social worker typically will give recommendations, not the nursing staff. It's typically the social worker that will share. And so when I've gone in there and it's been a patient who's come onto hospice quickly and there isn't anything in place and the patient does pass away, it's the brother and the sister who don't talk to each other ever, who are now trying to figure out who's paying for what, how they're going to do it, or they're yelling across the room while they're both on phones with 3 different things, trying to price things out, when ideally they should be
reminiscing
and comforting each other and telling stories and not having to worry about costs or planning, or it just takes away from actually sitting through that moment in time. And like you said, it's like birth and death. You do it once and you get one chance to like get it right. So families remember the chaos when things are not in place. And then, and then I had a family where I came in a second time and they hadn't prepared. And then for mom, they were all set because they knew what happened with dad. They did not want to go through the chaos again. They made sure things were in place, and it was like night and day, just the difference in the energy in the space. So I can't stress it enough. I mean, after working hospice, I really became passionate about educating people about the importance of having a plan in place.
All right. So let's talk about what is a prepaid plan.
So there's a couple. So this is one thing I learned. I didn't know as a nurse, I didn't really learn it until after I was helping patients privately. So a prepaid plan versus, you can get prepaid funeral plans, and that way, and it depends on what you want as an individual. A lot of people, like my grandparents, they wanted to have the full open casket buried. They had, my grandfather was in the military. They did that thing. My other grandmother, she just wanted to be cremated, and that was it. There was no service. So this is really something that you need to decide for yourself. It's a very personal decision. What is the process that I want to happen for my family to be able to grieve appropriately and for what my wishes are? And if you want a prepaid, there's prepaid funeral plans that include, the casket embalming. And then there's just simple prepaid cremation plans, which is what I'm going to do, because I don't need to be filled with embalming fluid and have my body, and have people walk by. It's just not for me.
Well, just think about it, Jamie. The plants, lots of plant medicine has taught us to eliminate the box that makes us think outside the box.
Yeah.
So why would we ever want to go back into
the box? Staying out of the box.
I'm staying out of the box. I am, let those ashes fly free.
Scatter me everywhere. I want to be just abundant and expansive. So I'm glad we talked to
Jamie. I know.
I can go every place that I've wanted, didn't make it when I was alive. I'm just like, just put a little bit of Jamie everywhere you go. But it's easy. So for me, I actually, and my husband and my mother and father, prepaid cremation plan. That means in advance, you pay either a lump sum or you pay a monthly price. I share one that's like you can have $50 a month, 0% interest. So they make it affordable, which is really great for, a lot of people who are chronically ill, want to have some sort of coverage so they don't leave their family burdened, but they can't afford $3,000 up front or $2,000 up front. But $50 a month is more feasible, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's a prepaid plan is, it's just, you pay it up front, and then it's ready there when you need it. And then when you need it, it's a phone call, and your family doesn't have to do anything other than make that phone call and sign paperwork to get you, to get your ashes. That's it.
Okay, so how does it work? So say, for example, I sign on the dotted line for the prepaid cremation plan, and I'm done. Like I die. And so then my kids would have this information, and then they would make a phone call, and then based on what I set up with that plan is what they would get. Is that what that?
And the one that I now share, and the one that I use, it's the reason I chose it and the reason I support it is that it is simple. So it
Tell me, what is it?
So it's basically four pieces. It's like basic coverage, which covers the cremation fee, the facility fee, the death certificates, the taxes. And then, you get your urn, you get to pick out, they, send some other mementos with you. There's travel and relocation. So that's that piece that's, just fantastic, because I live in Florida and now I'm going to be a snowbird. So we're going to be Florida and Massachusetts. And so we have that in Florida a lot. People retire here, a vacation here. It covers you. So if you were to pass away in Florida, but you have, your family and everybody's in New England, you don't have to pay extra money to get your ashes there. It's no matter where you are, the company would contract with another cremation facility to have it covered, because if you have to ship your body back to the place that you have the facility, the cremation package with, they don't cover that. So a lot of times people will buy a prepaid plan and they'll pass away somewhere else. And then they have to pay like 10 grand, 5 grand, 8 grand to get the body back to then utilize the plan. The plan that I share and am having my family purchase has that travel insurance basically built into it.
So no matter where you are,
no matter where you are,
and my body
Italy or Australia and die, and they will ship you and ship the ashes back to wherever you were supposed to be.
Okay. So that's really good to know. Okay.
Another really weird little thing about this, and this is another really morbid thing, but now we're in COVID times, we have to think about things like this. And when I was a kid, my mom told me she took a term life insurance policy out in case, God forbid, something happened and I passed as a child, they'd have money to cover any sort of expenses. The plan that I have and share also has like a grandchild and child rider, where if you have a plan, you've purchased a plan for yourself, if you have any children or grandchildren under the age of 21 who are unmarried, and it could be 15 grandkids, and say a terrible tragedy strikes and you need to provide services for a child or grandchild, because you purchased a plan, that their costs will, no matter how many, like a car accident, say it was a car accident, your plan would cover the costs for all of those children, and it wouldn't affect your plan. You would still be able to utilize your plan. So it's like it's a child and grandchild rider.
Okay, so just so I get it, I just want to get it. So say I buy a plan,
mm-hmm.
and my kids have kids,
mm-hmm.
and something happens to me and my kids' kids,
mm-hmm.
my grandkids, the plan would cover all of us.
Yes.
Wow.
21 and under and unmarried. That was, yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I know it's like one of those things people are like, it's so morbid. I'm like, it's morbid, but if you need it, you're going to be grateful that, and that covers any of them. So I sold a plan to a gentleman who had 15 grandkids. And he said, it's just something that I can have for me. And then if God forbid, then I know that I have the ability to help out my children to be able to cover any kind of expense like that. So, I mean, it's thinking ahead and covering,
yeah. So it's
insurance essentially.
It's insurance. Well, there it is. It's you're birthing into another realm, right? You might as well prepare for it. Just kind of like having a baby. You have a due date, but you really don't know when the baby's going to come.
Yeah.
We all have something in our mind about how long we're going to live, but honestly, do we really know?
No, like tonight. So like, for instance, tonight I was driving home. I went out to do some Christmas shopping and I almost got T-boned. And it was like that fast. So people always put things off like this, or like, oh, I don't need it. I'm 39. I need a plan like this so that my family doesn't get stuck figuring out how they're going to do it and then, the other benefit is I'm 39. If I pay $2,800 for a plan or $2,500 for a plan today, that plan the price never changes. So it's locked in. So because I work in this space, I know the statistics of the increase of costs of funerals and cremation services.
Tell me.
Costs in like 20. Well, it just continues to tick up. So, we're looking at a $3,000, $2,800, $2,500, depending on what region you're in the country, it changes. But, you're looking at a $2,500 plan now. In 10 years, that's going to look a lot different. Like,
yeah, you're right.
Be 8 grand or 10 grand. So when people tell me I put money aside, that's great. But that money, put it to use now. So something's planned. It's like finishing half the job. I put money aside, but now you still have to deal with all the nonsense to figure out who you're going to use and the phone calls, kids. No,
right.
Finish the job.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, have the, yes, have the party all planned ahead of time, so that way you can truly spend time with your family. You can reminisce, peace of mind. So, right. So think about it. Holidays is a great time to give the gift
right?
of peace of mind with a prepaid plan. So, you know, peace of mind. So, you know, everything's been taken care of, everything's in order. So you don't have to stress. Your children don't have to stress. Peace of mind. So you don't have to do anything except to place a call. All the work is done. Your family can spend time together celebrating and reminiscing about the good times with one another.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So Jamie, this has been awesome. So for more information, so Jamie is offering this through True Health Consulting and also through the Green Nurse.
Mhm.
So for more information on this, you can go to www.thegreennurse.com. I'm going to put in the comments below, info@thegreennurse.com, and you can ask.
I'm
Jamie,
happy to do like a free consultation to just kind of talk to anybody who just wants to talk with a nurse who is focused on end of life and planning, and just kind of discuss maybe what you need, what you want. It might not be a prepaid plan, but if I can help you to kind of figure out, you know, for maybe what direction you start in, I'd be happy to do that. So just reach out to the Green Nurse and
yep. So I'm gonna put your personal. So you have a bio on the Green Nurse website. So I'm gonna put your personal information right in there, so they can reach out directly to you. That way, we'll get out of the middle. So yeah, we'll put your email right in there, and that way you can have a free consultation with Jamie to discuss prepaid plans and to see, you know, if this is something that you'd want to think about for you or for your loved one. You know, when it's time to have that conversation. So Jamie, any last words of wisdom for our viewers?
No, I just, you know, it's something that people really stress about when they think of it. What I can say is the best way to not stop thinking about it is just get it done. Like focus on it, get through it, plan it, and then you don't have to think about it anymore. It's finished. So I'm a procrastinator, and this was like last on my list, so I get it. But it is something to think about as you go into as we end this crazy year of 2020. And you're right. It'd just be a really great gift to your family to know that it's not something they have to worry about down the road.
Yep. And that's what it is. It's you're not only giving a gift to yourself, but a gift to your family.
Well, it can save them substantial amount of money in the long run. So that's
there you go. And so the whole inheritance can go to them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
More to go on a trip with.
Exactly. Jamie, as always, it has been a true pleasure.
Love you.
Thank you for all that you do in the community. You know, you truly do bring hope and inspiration for growth and healing. And everyone, remember what it's all about. It's about living your best life.
Thanks, Sherry.